Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 4th March. The news items that we have picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 13. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, Dalai Lama's visit to Arunachal irks China. So this is regarding Dalai Lama, who has been given asylum here in India. He has plans to visit Arunachal Pradesh. So he's presently in Himachal Pradesh, where he stays in Dharamshala, and now he plans to visit Arunachal Pradesh. So Arunachal Pradesh has a huge Buddhist population. There are many monasteries here too. So here Arunachal Pradesh is actually disputed by China. So China claims it to be part of its territory, to be an integral part of Tibet. And India, of course, Arunachal Pradesh is an integral part of India. It is one of the states in India. It has been having elections conducted for every parliamentary and assembly elections, and we have a government in place there. It's completely a part of India. But what China claims is that the basis on which Arunachal Pradesh has become part of India, it dates back to colonial times. So it was British India who had signed an agreement with Tibet in 1914. This is called Shimla Convention of 1914, in which it was decided that this would be the boundary between British India and Tibet, and this McMahon line, which was finalized then, is now rejected by China. It says that this is a disputed territory actually, because Tibet then was not autonomous, and according to international law, if an autonomous region has not had an agreement, then this agreement cannot be legitimate. It is illegal and invalid. So that is its observation and its perspective. So India and China are actually resolving their boundary dispute. So if you look at the boundary, it's not just in Arunachal Pradesh. The McMahon line is this one. But India-China boundary, it goes beyond that to Sikkim, this northeastern state here. We have a boundary with China here, and then in the Jammu and Kashmir and this northern region. So you can see this is the India-China boundary, formal boundary as such. So for resolving boundary disputes, you should be knowing this also. We have spoken about this quite often. This is Aksai Chin region, which has been taken over by China during the 1962 India-China war. So even this is a disputed region here. So this is part of Jammu and Kashmir. So you can see LOC here. This is Pakistan occupied Kashmir with Pakistan. This Aksai Chin here, you can see this is LAC, line of actual control. So actual boundary which we have is this. So we have both our sides cut off from us de facto. Though on map we show it, it's an integral part of the country, of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, but not under our control. So this is also a disputed region, and even in Arunachal Pradesh, China disputes it. So now the thing is that we have had this agreement signed in 2005 for resolving the boundary dispute. So this India-China boundary question is being discussed behind closed doors as per the provisions of this agreement. Guiding principles, political parameters agreement was signed. So there have been many advances, but it does not come out in the open, because it is believed that when boundary disputes are discussed in open, in public, it results in coming to a practical solution difficult. So that is why it has been insisted that it remains behind closed doors, and it is said that we are very close to resolving the boundary question, and presently the Chinese Foreign Ministry is making this claim that an official, actually not formally, but an official in the Chinese Foreign Ministry, is even a former official actually, is making this claim that if India is reciprocal in the eastern sector of the boundary dispute, then China would reciprocate in the western sector. Means if India takes initiative and is ready to resolve the dispute here in Arunachal Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh specifically, this is Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh, which has these monasteries here, and China calls it part of Tibet. So Tawang region here is majorly the central part of the dispute. So if India makes some concessions here in Arunachal Pradesh, then China would make similar concessions in this sector. So these are two major sectors under dispute. Other areas, the boundary question there's no dispute as such. So that is why this is the article actually is about this. A former official, if India demonstrated flexibility along the eastern boundary, then China was likely to reciprocate in the western sector. means this disputed Aksai region. So that is about it. The next news item is, so this is Tawang also, you can see. So we have been discussing this. Tawang bordered by Tibet, Bhutan towards the west side. That is Tawang. Then the next news item is NHRC notice to Delhi government over bonded labor. So NHRC has issued a notice to the Delhi government and Delhi police because there have been 26 boys found working as bonded laborers in a jeans factory in Delhi. So this case has been taken suo motu cognizance of, and the notices have been issued to the government and the police here too, because along with the employer of these bonded laborers, also the government is at fault because it has not been able to end bonded labor. So that is illegal in the country. These boys are from age group of 8 to 13 years. It's also a possible case of human trafficking. They belong to this Motihari district in Bihar, and they were rescued from here. They were made to work around 22 hours a day. They were packing these jeans cloths, and they were set to have to pack 10 pieces of cloth in 10 minutes. And the one who finished the last, he was beaten up with a hammer by his employer. So they also have injury marks on their body. And one of them could not even open his eyes in sunlight. So that was the status and the conditions in which they were kept. So NHRC has asked the Delhi Chief Secretary and the Delhi Police Commissioner to submit reports within 4 weeks. So that is the step taken here. So NHRC, you should know, can take suo motu cognizance. So suo motu means on its own. There should not be a petition filed or a plea coming to the Human Rights Commission. It can take up the case on its own. So this is NHRC. It was established by an ordinance. So an ordinance constituted it in 1993, and then came the law, the statutory law, Protection of Human Rights Act of 1993. So generally we also have these ordinance promulgated to comply with the international laws. So under international agreements signed, we actually have to remodel our national laws as well. But then generally it is seen that time frame of course is given, but the government here, it takes time for the law to be passed in India, and the easy way out is promulgating an ordinance. So that's what was done here too, and finally later the law came into effect. So this is for protection and promotion of human rights, that this act has been passed and NHRC has been established. The next news item is for olive ridleys, it's paradise lost. So this is regarding olive ridley turtles who come to the coast of India, the eastern coast, especially Odisha and Andhra Pradesh states, where they lay their eggs on the beaches. So they dig a pit and then they lay their eggs and put sand back on it. So that is how egg laying takes place, and each one of the turtles, these are the female turtles who come for mass nesting, and they come in together. So that's why it's called mass nesting, means all female olive ridley turtles come in huge numbers. It's not few of them, but a huge number of them which come together and nest here. So this actually presently is facing trouble in Odisha, in Gahirmatha sanctuary. So Odisha coast is said to be the largest mass nesting site of olive ridley turtles in the world. The other sites here are in South America. So here presently we are facing problem. Actually the olive ridley turtles are facing problem because of shrinking of the habitat. So this coastal space here is shrinking, and that is why what is happening is the huge number of olive ridley turtles, females who come in here, they lay their eggs, and say around 50% of them have laid their eggs. Others who come up later, they lay their eggs by digging the same region which has already had eggs laid. So this results in some eggs destroyed. So it's actually 50% of the eggs that may survive is possible this year. So that is the problem which is being faced here because of shrinking coastal space in Gahirmatha. Also in Visakhapatnam, you can see there also mass nesting takes place, but that is very little. There are 447 nests with 47,000 eggs here. So highest so far in Visakhapatnam. This is regarding these olive ridley turtles. The next news item is roadmap for second phase of Jal Abhiyan. So we have done this earlier too, Jal Swavlamban Abhiyan. So this is a program of Rajasthan state government for revival of traditional water resources. So the second phase of this has also been initiated now. So this takes up water conservation initiatives. Rainwater harvesting was carried out in the first phase. Watershed structures were established. This program is also known for using scientific techniques. We have discussed this too. Geotagging and mobile applications have been used for successful completion of works. So geotagging basically means that an image is taken and that image is geotagged, means clearly specifying where the location of that is with latitude, longitude. So with scientific technology, this is possible. So once regions are geotagged, means it is clearly known at what date, what time, where this image was taken, and later compare it with what developmental works are done, or with officers too, or workers involved, that whether they have been at a particular place and this work being done or not, that can be kept a check on. So these techniques are being used here as well. The next news item is Center dithers on Western Ghats issue. So this Western Ghats issue has been going on for long to declare ESA, ecologically sensitive area, in the Western Ghats. So these ecologically sensitive area will not be allowed to have any mining and quarrying operations. No building of thermal power plants would be allowed in this region. So which region should be declared as ecological sensitive area in Western Ghats is the question. Western Ghats is a huge area. It comprises of regions from Gujarat till Tamil Nadu. So you can see the states involved it's along the west coast. So Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Goa, Kerala and Tamil Nadu all have their regions under the Western Ghats. So this Western Ghats region, how much of it is to be declared as ecologically sensitive area? There are two differing viewpoints. Actually, there were two committees set up, one after the other. So the first committee set up was Madhav Gadkil committee, and in this committee, the report which came up, it recommended in 2011 that entire Western Ghats should be declared as ecologically sensitive area. He said that only limited development should be allowed in graded zones. So entire is ecologically sensitive and some limited development is allowed. So that graded zones were established, recommended to be established by it. So of course this was not acceptable to the states, and the center also did not take any action on it. Rather, it set up another committee. So this was K. Kasturi Rangan committee, who is a former ISRO chairman too. This committee was set up on the same, studying Madhav Gadkil report also and on Western Ghats. So this committee then recommended that only 60,000 square kilometer, that is only 37% of the Western Ghats, should be declared as ecologically sensitive area. So this was more palatable for the states and the central government. Here also, of course, there are issues because the news presently is even this has not been done yet. So even here, later even Kerala brought its opposition to this, and this 60,000 square kilometer was brought down to 56,825 square kilometers. So here actually there are settlements, these are fertile lands, agriculture is being practiced here. So the states are also taking that into consideration, and they don't want these regions to be declared as ecologically sensitive areas. Fear of regulation, so basically. So that's what this is about. So presently what is going on is the objections from the states are being looked into. Actually, it has this resolution which was initiated. So draft notification was published by the central government in March 2014. So that how much land of this should be declared as ecologically sensitive area of Western Ghats. So here, of course, objections from states came, and this draft notification lapsed. So in 1.5 years, the notification lapses. So March 2014 to September 2015, it lapsed. A fresh draft notification again with the same figures of 56,825 square kilometer being declared have been reintroduced in 2015. Again, this will expire in March 2017. So that is what is going on presently. So now no step has been taken as yet. No region has still been declared as ecologically sensitive area. So that is what this news is about. So now they are saying that they will have discussions with the states, and based on their viewpoints, taking them into consideration, steps would be taken. So that is fresh meetings will take place. So these are the recommendations in detail of the Madhav Gadgil committee and also of the Kasturi Rangan committee. But in the gist of it, we have understood, and the differences are put forth here. So you can see entire Western Ghats ecologically sensitive, only 37% ecologically sensitive. It recommends, Gadgil committee recommends bottom-up approach to conservation. So means Gram Sabha, the panchayats here, Gram Sabha should be playing a crucial role in decision making here. And Kasturi Rangan committee, the other way around. So this was pro people, pro environment, and this was more compatible with the functioning of the central and state governments. What more to say? So this envisages decision making as responsibility with the government bureaucracy, such as forest officials. So that's what it says. Recommended recognition of 3 grades of ecologically sensitive zones. So one where complete ban would be there on any construction, dam, mining, quarrying, all this would be completely banned in the first zone, ecologically sensitive area, zone 1. So that's what it was, grading and zoning and bringing in conservation efforts, declaring them at sensitive zones for all, for the entire Western Ghats. And here it says that hydroelectric power plants can be permitted in ecologically sensitive areas also. Means only 37% is declared, and here also it can be allowed only after detailed study. A complete ban on quarrying, mining, sand mining has been upheld. Then the last difference is constitute the Western Ghats Ecology Authority under Ministry of Environment and Forest to regulate and oversee conservation of Western Ghats, and means a separate body is to be established, Western Ghats Ecology Authority. And Kasturi Rangan committee says that current legal framework should be strengthened. So that's what it does not say to establish a new body. Then the next news item is Aadhaar must for midday meal cooks students. So as we are seeing, the government is extending Aadhaar to be made mandatory for various schemes. Another example of this is there. One more scheme has been brought under it. So this is midday meal scheme, under which students who are benefiting from it and even the cook cum helpers who work under the midday meal scheme should have an Aadhaar card to be coming under it. So to avail this facility, you need Aadhaar card. So this has been put forth by the HRD ministry. So in education earlier, we have seen that various scholarship schemes have been brought under Aadhaar, means Aadhaar is mandatory for them. So this is midday meal. So midday meal is provided in schools. So this was an initiative originally of the Tamil Nadu government, which has been brought into effect throughout the country now, that students can be retained in school if they are provided midday meal. So cooked meal is provided to them in schools. So that is another way of ensuring retention actually. The next news item is Apex Court seeks center MCI response on plea over NEET. So this is the center and MCI, Medical Council of India's response sought by the Supreme Court. So NEET, we have discussed NEET earlier too. This is National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test. So this is the common entrance test which has been mandated by the Supreme Court for admissions to all MBBS and BDS dental courses across the country. So this is NEET. So in NEET, actually the languages in which the exam is conducted is 10. So there are 10 languages you can see: Hindi, English, Gujarati, Marathi, Odia, Bengali, Assamese, Telugu, Tamil and Kannada. So now what is being demanded is that also Urdu language should be included under this. So for this, proposal has been put forth to the MCI because it is the Medical Council of India which can include any language as a medium for NEET. If a request is made by the states, so already Maharashtra and Telangana have made this request for Urdu to be included and steps have not been taken. So now the Student Islamic Organization has approached the Supreme Court on this matter. So Supreme Court is seeking response from the center and MCI on this now. So Urdu, they claim, is the 6th most spoken language in the country. And on the other hand, Gujarati is the 7th most spoken, Assamese is the 12th most spoken, and still they are included, but Urdu is excluded. So that is being questioned here. And about Medical Council of India, you should know it was established in 1934 under the Indian Medical Council Act of 1933. So this act has actually now been repealed. It has been replaced by a new act of 1956, which has also been amended quite often now. So the main function of the Medical Council of India is to have uniform standards for qualification in medicine, and also it provides recognition to various medical qualifications as such. So this functioning, there was requirement for modifications here, because since independence there have been many medical colleges established in India. So that is why a new act was formulated. So that is what a Medical Council of India functions for, having uniform standards for medical education, recognition, de-recognition of medical qualifications, even permanent registration, provisional registration of doctors is done by it. So that is there. It provides reciprocity with foreign countries too for mutual recognition of medical qualifications. The next news item is Indian spy will be booked, says Pakistan. So this is regarding the former Indian naval officer Kulbhushan Yadav. He had been arrested by Pakistan in Balochistan province in March 2016. And now the Pakistani officials say that an FIR has been prepared and will be registered to prosecute him for involvement in terrorist activities in Pakistan. So a dossier of this has also been provided to UN Secretary General. Also, Pakistan is saying that we'll make this available and share it with other countries also and world organizations too. But Indian embassy officials have been denied access to talk to Kulbhushan Yadav despite repeated requests. So now Pakistani officials are saying that he would be prosecuted, and if he's convicted, then there may be a death penalty for him too. So they claim that he was working for RAW, Research and Analysis Wing, and was a spy in Pakistan and was planning terror activities here in Balochistan province. So Balochistan province, we know, is a region of unrest in Pakistan. So it was actually originally a princely state. Even Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke of it in his Independence Day speech in August 2016, 15th August. And also recently we came across, and since then it has been the case that here the leaders here are demanding asylum status in India or assistance from India for their demands. So Balochistan, you can see, this is the map of India before partition. So this is India and Pakistan shown here, Bangladesh here as East Pakistan. So this was actually Pakistan form. So the yellow regions are British India provinces and the blue regions are the princely states. You can see Balochistan was a princely state and they claim that they were annexed by Pakistan. So that is why they demand independence from them. So since this time, 1947, the demands or the protests from Balochistan continues till date. So it is a region of unrest till date for Pakistan. Then the next news item is US nixed India's plea on reforms in medicine. So this is actually regarding this access to medicine report by UN high-level panel. So this had recommended reforms in funding of biomedical research and development. So we have been seeing many news items in which we have already discussed about pharmaceuticals and how research and development in pharmaceuticals, the clinical trials which they undertake results in huge amount of costing, and because of this they demand patents, and because the patents are issued, then they have the monopoly. They can decide whatever price they want to sell that drug at, and many of these are life-saving drugs, even cancer treatment drugs, and they become unaffordable for the developing and the underdeveloped countries. So here people suffer because drugs are available but they cannot buy them. So to bring in a change here, what has been proposed is access to medicines should be made was possible, and for this a report had been developed and it recommended reforms in the funding of biomedical research and development. So this report, actually a discussion on this was proposed. So this was proposed, you can see, by 11 Southeast Asian countries, including along with India, means total 12. So these 11 Southeast Asian nations also are here the developing nations. You can see Bangladesh, Bhutan, South Korea was also there, India, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Thailand. So all these, including Brazil, Iran, South Africa, who supported it as such from outside. So these countries, when they had a proposal to have a discussion on access to medicines report, this was opposed actually by US. So US government had opposed including these agenda items for discussions. So that has come out presently through how we have RTI responses coming. So this is Freedom of Information Act response, FOIA response from USA. So this has revealed that this had taken place. So this was actually aimed, these steps are aimed at reforming medical innovation. So currently drug prices are at unaffordable levels. So there are steps required to modify this, rectify this, but US nixed means did not allow this to happen, blocked it. So that's what has come out right now, because US government here, it's actually World Health Organization which would look into all this. So both US and World Health Organization oppose the proposals by India. So World Health Organization, USA has a member state of WHO, and not just a WHO, but it's a big donor for World Health Organization too. So it dominates WHO also. So that is what it is, that the delays by WHO to place UNHLP, so this high level panel's recommendations on agenda of the WHO's enforcement body subsequently and the World Health Assembly, this had resulted in criticism from Asian civil society organizations then too. So this USA had a role to play in this, has come out now through this FIOA response. So that is about this. It says the report, actually this access to medicines report, had recommended that governments and private sector must refrain from explicit or implicit threats, tactics or strategies that undermine the rights of WTO members to use TRIPS flexibilities. So in TRIPS, trade related in aspects of intellectual property rights, this TRIPS agreement of World Trade Organization has provisions, exceptions which can be made. So these exception provisions, flexibilities which are there in TRIPS should not be nixed, should not be not allowed to function, should be allowed to function, I mean. So that's what had been proposed in this report also, because presently it is seen, we see USA again and again claims that India's patent laws are not TRIPS compliant, We keep arguing, no, they are TRIPS compliant, because there are exceptions provided for in TRIPS. So we are not doing anything beyond that. So what USA demands from us are TRIPS plus provisions. So TRIPS plus means more than what TRIPS demands. So that's what this report, Access to Medicines report of UN, was also saying, that such demands should not be made by government, neither by government nor by private sector. So that's what it is about, that this report discussion could not come up actually. So this is regarding TRIPS. So this was formalized in 1994 at the Uruguay round of GATT. So TRIPS agreement, intellectual property rights law, have been introduced and they are enforced by all countries. They have to be upheld by all members of WTO. So of course it comes to intellectual property, means everything: patents, copyright, trademark, industrial design, everything, trade secrets, all come under its protection. The flexibilities which TRIPS has and which India has been using to are listed here, you can see. So preventive measures. So preventive means that the patents do not hinder access, means preventing. So exclusion from patentability can be made, that these aspects cannot be patented. Patentability criteria, that if this is a frivolous patent, evergreening of patent taking place, we have already discussed what is evergreening of patent, so that is also to be opposed. Patent opposition means you can oppose pre-grant, post-grant, you can oppose the patent, means these are the powers, flexibilities which are there for governments. Though you are member of the World Trade Organization, you have to be TRIPS compliant, but even in TRIPS there are provisions. Even for least developed countries, there are waivers that they can put it into effect later. So until 1st Jan 2016, TRIPS patent laws were not enforceable in LDC countries. Then remedial measures. So these are preventive measures. Remedial measures means compulsory licensing, means after the patent has been given to, you have remedies. So compulsory licensing also we have discussed, that even after a patent has been given, if there are conditions prevailing, if the drug is exceedingly high and out of reach of the common people, then the government can provide compulsory license for manufacture of a generic drug of that same patented drug but to another company. So they can manufacture generic drugs and sell them. So this is called compulsory licensing. So compulsory licensing for export is also allowed, you can see, right? So that is also there. Then enforcement. In enforcement also there are provisions that no border measures for suspected patent infringement. So if patent infringement is taking place, you cannot have, and in enforcement you cannot have criminalization as such, and you cannot have border measures as such. So border measures means when infringed goods, means non-patented goods whose infringement has taken place, if that is been coming across the border, import export is taking place, then border measures can be applied to stop them. So even no border measures be applied or no criminalization taking place for some patent infringements, there are provisions under the TRIPS Act. These are also there. Means you don't need to apply border measures, you don't need to criminalize patent infringement in some cases. So even for enforcement, there are measures in place. So these are the TRIPS flexibilities. These can be used by developing countries, and the governments and these pharmaceutical companies from these developed countries, they should not put restrictions on their usage. So that is the access to medicines report. The next news item is Supreme Court takes government to task over farmer suicides. So we have been seeing that Supreme Court is hearing this case on farmer suicides. So farmer suicides due to indebtedness and crop failure has been a grave concern for the country for long, but steps have not been taken yet. The Supreme Court says that it feels the government is going in the wrong direction in tackling the problem, because the problem needs not be tackled by only paying compensation to the families of the victim. So that is post facto. That is after the problem has occurred, after a suicide has taken place. So this is not the real solution. So what it is demanding from the center is what steps have been taken to ensure that these incidents don't take place, farmer suicides don't take place. So the government representative, the additional solicitor general in this case, has said that government has initiated various schemes. The 2015 national crop insurance scheme, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, they say will drastically reduce such incidents of farmer suicides. So that's what it is claiming. So a petition on this was actually filed by an NGO, that the farmers' conditions in Gujarat is very bad and they are committing suicides here. So this case was actually expanded by the Supreme Court. The scope of the petition was expanded, means it would not be only for Gujarat that the bench would adjudicate, but for the entire country. So this was done by the Supreme Court, and now it is hearing this matter and asking response from the government. Also, this NGO has said that there are renowned agricultural scientists like MS Swaminathan, also eminent rural areas journalist, agriculture-based issues which he covers, as P. Sainath was also associated with the Hindu. So they have been working in this field and on farmers' suicides. So suggestions from them should be taken, their recommendations should be taken and to be put into effect, is also a suggestion given by this NGO to the Supreme Court. So of course we'll keep hearing more on this matter too, what the center says and what the Supreme Court would adjudicate as such on the issue. The next news item is India to train Myanmar Navy. So Indian Navy will set up meteorological facilities and impart training to Myanmar Navy. So this is a request coming from them. So India is putting its efforts here because this is in sync with Act East policy. So it's the eastern neighbor of India, Myanmar, and also Chinese presence, which we are seeing in the countries around us, has to be reciprocated or has to be countered. So for that matter, if we are having cooperation here with Myanmar Navy, that is in India's interest only. Also with Myanmar, we have already discussed, we are developing the Sitwe port, the Kaladan multimodal transit project. So of course we have a presence here too, and now we will have training provided, meteorological facilities also provided to the naval force here. The next news item is UN body slams Sri Lanka. So we had discussed this earlier too, that Sri Lanka is planning to extend that deadline which it has, 18 months time frame which was given for it to respond to the 2015 agreement resolution which was passed by it at UN. So now UN is criticizing that the Sri Lankan government's time frame which had been provided to it to address the issues, concerns of the Tamil minorities after the civil war has ended. So the civil war ended and resulted, it has ended 8 years ago. So even 8 years after the end of this decades-old civil war, the reports of abuses, including torture, continue to come in. So there are still issues of disappearances, tortures, the means of torture used by the police forces here against these minorities is a worrying concern. So why is there such a slow progress is being questioned now by the UN, and Sri Lanka needs to respond to it. So it says that if this continues, then the threat of this peace and stability not lasting will be there, because recurrence of this issue will come up. So it will reoccur. So then what has been achieved after the civil war has ended? There needs to be rehabilitation, reconciliation taking place. But then if no steps are taken or no genuine steps are taken, or there's such a long delay, then peace stability cannot be ensured. So this is a veiled threat also which has been given by UN to Sri Lanka, warning coming from them. So you can see routine use of torture throughout the country for interrogation investigation is common. So these are the issues which are being brought forth by the UN Human Rights Commission now. So it says that around 1 lakh people died in the conflict between Tamil separatists and government forces. So the civil war ended in 2009, 8 years ago. So UN has been pushing for a special court to investigate allegations that government forces killed up to 40,000 Tamil civilians, not Tamil terrorists or fighters, Tamil civilians in the final months of fighting. So when a war takes place, of course, there will be casualties, civilian casualties also take place, and how much of efforts are made by the government to make sure that civilians do not lose their lives is the question here. So around 40,000 Tamils died is claimed. So there have been demands. So the Human Rights Council resolution under 2015, you can see, so it was calling for special tribunals and reparations for victims. So Sri Lanka was given 18 months time frame to establish credible investigations, but this deadline has lapsed and it has not done any substantial work here. Also, UN has been urging that there should be creation of hybrid courts. So hybrid courts means that courts in which the judges are not just Sri Lankan nationals, but also international judges be present. So it's a hybrid mix of national and international judges. So they should look into these allegations, these cases, because then it would get more credibility. Because otherwise it would be considered that these judges, Sri Lankan judges, would be biased and people would not have a sense of justice there. So this suggestion has been made by UN also and has been made by a committee which was set up by Sri Lanka also on this issue. But the Sri Lankan government is completely against any hybrid court. There will be no international judges involved is what they have claimed. So we'll have to wait and watch if they actually accept this demand also, and whether justice would come to these people who have been suffering for so long is the question. So you can say one aspect is hybrid courts, which the UN is saying. Then another is that private land has been occupied by the military. These are lands of these people from Tamil minority regions. So this is majorly in northern and eastern provinces. So this private land occupied has to be returned to them. It's a suggestion made by UN too. Then it also says that Sri Lankan government should invite the UN Human Rights Commission office to establish its presence in Sri Lanka. So these are some points of view given to bring in rehabilitation, bring in reconciliation of these people who have been suffering here for so long now, even after the end of the civil war in 2009. It's 2017 now, but justice has not come forth to them yet. So how will peace prevail then is the question. So stability would also be affected. You can see the composition of Sri Lanka too, the ethnic composition. 74.9% are Sinhalese, shown in this greenish color. Then you can see the Sri Lankan Tamils here. The Indian Tamils are there in some regions here. So Sri Lankan Tamils basically means Tamils who had come down to Sri Lanka during the British colonial times long ago, and they have settled here. And these are Indians who have come from India to Sri Lanka presently. So they're presently Indians and they are considered to be of Sri Lankan nationality only. But then they are minority. And the major say in politics and in governance goes to Sinhala. Even the question on the national language of Sri Lanka, so that was Sinhalese was made the only national language. They demanded that Tamil should be a language here too. So when their rights are not upheld, not treated equally, that resulted in creation of LTT2, and post that we saw the civil war, which resulted in loss of huge number of lives, has now finally ended. The government has prevailed and has eliminated LTT. But post this, if reconciliation efforts are not taken, then the entire efforts, all the efforts put in are a waste. It will go back to the provisions which were there, or the status which was there earlier. Again, militancy may also crop up. So that is why steps are required here to be taken presently. And the last news item is Australia wants India to be a consistent buyer of its cotton. So Australia is the 5th largest exporter of cotton. if you look at India, India is the largest producer and consumer of cotton globally. And presently we are seeing that Australian cotton is being purchased in huge amount by India too. So India used to purchase 5 to 7% of cotton from Australia every year, but last year in 2016 it was 23%. So this was because there was drop in production of cotton in India. So now Australia is saying that India should remain a consistent buyer. So it Australia basically has a huge potential and it has been producing cotton. China is its major buyer. So more than 30% of Australia's cotton production was purchased by China, but now it is gradually reducing. So it has lower than usual purchase now. So Australia is looking to India for cotton. It says that you can use it along with the homemade cotton. So blend can also be used. So high value garments can be manufactured with use of Australian cotton. So they are not against Indian cotton being used, but they are emphasizing on blend because this is understood that we need to have our own cotton production expanding because we are the largest producer of cotton in the world. So this is another news on that. So these are the news items. Thank you.